Hey guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, today I know we were supposed to have a quick vid. I tried filming it as such, but you know me. I'm not a fan of short videos because there's just too much information to convey. Anyway, today I thought we could discuss about the miniature Dendrobium nobiles because, well, yes, they might exist or might not. And also miniature orchids in general, since I did have quite a few questions. So that said, let's start the video. Now, in my previous video regarding Dendrobium nobiles, the pros and cons, I got 4 comments saying there are indeed miniature Dendrobium nobiles on the market. 2 of my viewers actually provided an ID for these dendrobiums. So here's the name of the supposedly miniature Dendrobium nobile, but at a simple Google search, it turns out that this dendrobium is not really a miniature dendrobium. So one of the searches is from Orchid Web, which is, in my opinion, one of the most credible sources out there. And there we can see that the spring bird is just another beautiful Yamamoto hybrid. And you also have a video of Mr. Fisher holding that dendrobium. I'll link it down below to this so you can see it. It really does not look like a miniature dendrobium, does it? So 2 of my viewers say that they had this miniature dendrobium, they purchased it with this ID. But actually it's just another Yamamoto cross. So now comes the question. For those of you who did see in stores mini dendrobiums, or you do have one of these miniature dendrobiums with an ID, first of all, do a Google search. See what Google thinks about it. If you do find stores or websites who describe this orchid as a miniature, then there we go. Please share it with us as well. If you cannot find any accounts of this being a miniature, I have a funny suspicion that it's actually not a miniature. It's either a keiki, either a hormonally controlled orchid. I really hope it's a keiki, and I also really hope there are such things as miniature nobile dendrobiums. Now, of course, I tried to do a bit of research myself, and I just googled miniature Dendrobium nobiles. There aren't many results at all, there are only a few, so here's what I found. There are some pictures with what appear to be miniature dendrobiums, but they're on a website called Weborama, and apparently they're Yamamoto dendrobiums. Although on the Yamamoto website they don't really appear. So I'm not entirely sure what the correlation is here, but other than that, there is no account that I personally found at any other shop that miniature nobiles are for sale or exist. Also, Googling the name provided by Weborama, I only found an account on the Orchid Board forum. Somebody was trying to ID a nobile they had. They came up with this ID. We are not sure if it's the correct ID, but their dendrobium was 30 centimeters high, 1 foot. Now that's not miniature. As I was saying in my previous video, there are some smaller nobiles, and this is one of them that, yeah, I know it doesn't have blooms anymore, but this is how tall it is. You can see it is shorter than the big ones, but still it's not a miniature. It looks like a pretty tallish cattleya at this point. It is 35 centimeters tall, and also, as you can see, the small canes, which were the younger canes, did bloom as well in the past. And we still have a few flowers here. You can see not a tall cane which is capable of blooming, but this is not a miniature, and under good conditions and when the plant matures, it gets tall, pretty tall. So there might be something like a miniature Dendrobium nobile, but at this point I don't find it for sale on the Yamamoto website. It doesn't appear as a staple as the other hybrids they have. Maybe it was something created for special occasions, in the sense that it will not remain like that. It will eventually grow. Maybe it's something they're working on. Anyway, if you know more about that particular Yamamoto cross, I'll link it down below. But the IDs that my viewers provided definitely didn't come from miniature hybrids. They were in fact fully fledged hybrids over 30 or 35 centimeters long. So that's why I'm saying there might be something miniature out there, but I'm not sure that what people bought is that miniature thing. And I have just this funny suspicion it's just a keiki or a seedling. Now, miniature orchids do actually exist, and the most popular one is the miniature Phalaenopsis, which can be found in flower shops and garden centers, very cheap, very easy to grow, the same as a normal Phalaenopsis. But with the mini Phalaenopsis, a few years back we had a whole issue with people purchasing miniature Phalaenopsis And then as the year passed, the orchid started to grow bigger and bigger leaves, transforming into at least a medium-sized phalaenopsis. And I never had this happen to me. What I did have happen is purchasing a medium-sized phalaenopsis and then seeing it transform into a big-sized one. So in this case, it's about age. And I didn't really consider this about Dendrobium nobile, but now I am, because I actually have a Dendrobium nobile seedling. And it's really tiny, as you can see. This is not a miniature though, it is actually a seedling. And you can see in the past it had smaller pseudobulbs and it took a while until it grew a bigger one. Well, I kind of set it back as well. It's a very old seedling, but as you can see, it can totally pass as a miniature. Now, in good condition, and if the orchid is not set back like mine is, it can actually bloom just a few flowers. Don't imagine a multitude of flowers, but at 3 or 4 nodes here, it can totally bloom. So if you have something like this, it totally looks like a miniature, only it's not, it's just a seedling. So now I'm thinking maybe the nobiles that you see for sale as miniatures are nothing more than seedlings, like the case of the phalaenopsis. Both phalaenopsis and nobiles can actually bloom before they reach their maximum size. And you know how complex hybrid phalaenopsis are. They will grow in your care with good care. And PS, I'll add in the description below more of my older videos in which I talk about miniature orchids. I think I made a top of my favorite miniature orchids, other species as well. So if you want to learn about properly tiny plants which will not grow into monsters, just check the description once again. So this has been the case of the seedling, which is okay, slightly misleading, but okay. Now comes the stuff that I personally am not okay with. Let us remember the cingolo. The cingolo is a phalaenopsis orchid which apparently only produces one flower. I do have the cingolo, and as we discovered, it is just a cut flower spike. So the one single flower is not actually one single flower. But the thing that bugs me the most about this orchid is that it is presented as a miniature in comparison to the flower. If you search on Google, you will find numerous accounts of people having this orchid, treating it properly, and then seeing it grow into a monster. It's pretty normal. The roots are thick, the flowers are big. The orchid cannot be a miniature unless some real genetic performance has happened there. And I don't think we are at that stage yet. We would have done it already. So this orchid is hormonally controlled, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. It is controlled in such a way as to remain tiny. But when the substance is not administered anymore, this orchid just grows normally. And as it just so happens, the white phalaenopsis with big white flowers have big green leaves and thick roots. And that's what's gonna happen with that orchid. From a tiny little orchid, you're gonna end up in a year or two with the normal or standard size phalaenopsis hybrid. So what if the phalaenopsis is not the only one who can be controlled like that? What if the Dendrobium nobile can as well? That's slightly worrying, and I really hope it's not the case. I really hope we're dealing with just some keikis or some seedlings, because hormonally controlling orchids leads to a whole lot of mess, in my opinion, to a whole lot of misleading. And unless the tag specifically says that this has been obtained through engineering of some sorts, then I'm afraid it's just going to be a mess on the market. Everybody will purchase tiny dendrobiums and then watch them grow and then comment on forums, what am I going to do with this monster now? But anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. And again, if you do have this orchid, a miniature nobile, or you did see it for sale, or you have a link online, put it down below in a comment. I'll look in the spam folder. I'll make sure that all of the comments that have a link will be published. I'm really curious. Did they really invent a miniature nobile, or is it just another trick to make us buy orchids? As if we don't buy enough orchids. Come on, they're beautiful. We're gonna buy them nonetheless. And before I let you go, a piece of advice. When you go shopping for orchids or plants or whatever and you see something interesting, take your phone out and Google it. Google is your bestest friend in the world. It's not me, it's not anybody here on YouTube, it's Google in general. If you see something which doesn't look right and you have an ID, or you just want to know if that something exists, Google it. Somebody in this world has something to say about it, so at least you'll have some opinions or some information before you purchase it. And when it comes to miniature orchids, there are already very iconic miniatures. On the flower market, you only have the mini Phalaenopsis. Other than that, you have the Hoiara, which is a tiny Oncidium. You have the Twinkle, which is a tiny Oncidium. If you see miniature Nobiles, do a Google search. If you have a tag and stumble upon the pictures and other accounts of that orchid, see if indeed it's a miniature. Because you know what? In the world of commerce, sadly, everything goes. You kind of need to protect yourself. Be a smart buyer. So I'm really curious to read your comments and what you have to say and your links. And you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye. P.S. Look who just bloomed. Oh, I need to adjust the light. There you go. Wow, this is the Cattleya that I received from Max. It bloomed last year. It has a purple color overall. Well, this time it's burgundy. Not sure how the camera picks it up. It does pick it up burgundy. This is a color changer. I'm sure that as the flowers open more and mature, they will turn into that, you know, purple. But right now, they are so dark colored, a dark burgundy color that I absolutely adore. And I don't have an ID for this one. I call her a Violacea hybrid, but I'm not entirely sure. I think somebody actually mentioned something about it. I'll check in my comments, and when I will present this one in bloom for this month or next month, I'm gonna try to get an ID for you guys. This is also very, very fragrant, worth having.